It was just a wooden wheel. Ordinary, harmless, nothing special. But in medieval Europe, it became a tool of torture so feared, people were too scared to even talk about it. This wasn't quick or clean or merciful, and somehow it lasted for centuries. So what turned a simple wheel into one of the most terrifying punishments in history? To understand that, we have to go back, way back. The breaking wheel stands as one of history's most terrifying torture devices. This medieval nightmare didn't just appear overnight. Ancient Greece and Rome had their own versions of wheel punishment, but they were practically gentle compared to what medieval Europe would create later. The ancient world used wheels for executions, but medieval craftsmen turned torture into an art form. By the 13th century, this torture method had spread across Europe faster than plague. France embraced it enthusiastically. The Holy Roman Empire couldn't get enough of it. Medieval authorities loved the breaking wheel because it sent an unmistakable message. Regular hanging was too quick. Standard beheading was too merciful. The wheel was like bringing a sledgehammer to a paper-cut fight when it came to scaring potential criminals. The wheel represented more than just execution to medieval minds. It became a symbol of divine justice itself. People believed God wanted criminals to suffer extensively before dying. The wheel delivered that suffering in carefully measured doses. Later generations called it the Catherine Wheel, linking it to St. Catherine. But here's the strange part. St. Catherine was never actually executed on a breaking wheel. According to legend, the wheel broke when they tried to use it on her. Talk about equipment failure at the worst possible moment. Medieval justice operated on principles completely foreign to modern thinking. Public punishment was essential. Extreme suffering was required. The wheel wasn't just about killing criminals, it was about terrifying everyone else. But understanding where the wheel came from only tells part of the story. The breaking wheel itself was a large wooden circle, typically measuring about 6 feet across. This was actually a carefully engineered torture system designed to destroy the human body in very specific ways. Victims were positioned with mathematical precision. Sometimes they were stretched across a wooden platform beneath the wheel. Every rope placement was calculated more carefully than a wedding seating chart. The executioner's main tool was a heavy iron bar called a breaking bar. These weren't crude clubs. Breaking bars were precision instruments designed specifically for shattering human bones. Professional executioners had to master the art of controlled violence like medieval golfers perfecting their swing. The torture process followed a systematic approach. Executioners typically started with arms or legs, raising the iron bar high before bringing it down with tremendous force. But the goal was never quick death. The entire point was breaking bones while keeping the victim alive and aware. After the initial bone-breaking phase, some variations involved threading the victim's shattered limbs through the wheel's spokes. Arms and legs, now broken in multiple places, would be woven between the wooden bars so they stuck out at impossible angles. The end result looked like the world's most horrific pretzel. The completed wheel would then be hoisted up on a tall pole for public display. Sometimes victims died quickly from shock. Other times they survived for hours or days, exposed to weather while their broken bodies slowly gave up. Weather became part of the punishment too. Rain could cause pneumonia. Blazing sun brought dehydration. Winter cold caused hypothermia. But the breaking wheel wasn't used randomly on just anyone who broke the law. Murder, arson, and treason formed the holy trinity of wheel-worthy crimes. But medieval justice wasn't exactly known for consistency. The difference between life and death often came down to factors that had nothing to do with actual guilt. Your social status determines everything. Wealthy people had options that poor people could never imagine. Poor people got the wheel while rich people got lawyers. Some things never change. Women rarely faced the breaking wheel, but not for protective reasons. Medieval authorities believed women were naturally weaker and would die too quickly from the torture, which defeated the whole purpose. Trial procedures would make modern lawyers weep. Evidence requirements were laughably loose. Confessions extracted under torture were considered perfectly valid. Medieval interrogation techniques made waterboarding look like a spa treatment. Religious conflicts created special dangers. During periods of religious tension, practicing the wrong faith could easily become treason charges. Religious tolerance apparently wasn't a medieval strong suit. The legal definition of treason was incredibly broad. Speaking critically about the king could be treason. Refusing to pay certain taxes might be treasonous. Even spreading gossip about royal family members could earn you a wheel sentence. Previous criminal history almost guaranteed a wheel sentence. Medieval communities were small, and everyone knew the local troublemakers. If you had a reputation for violence, new accusations were much more likely to stick. But perhaps the most disturbing aspect wasn't who got sentenced. It was how enthusiastically the public embraced these brutal spectacles. Public executions drew crowds like medieval Super Bowl games. Towns announced upcoming wheel executions weeks in advance. People planned their schedules around major executions, treating them as important social events. Food vendors flocked to execution sites like entrepreneurs at a festival. Nothing said family fun like watching someone get tortured to death while snacking on a turkey leg. Entire families attended these events regularly. Parents brought children along, viewing executions as valuable educational experiences. Medieval parenting apparently thought field trips to torture sessions built character. Audiences treated executions exactly like sporting events. They cheered when executioners delivered devastating blows. They booed if they felt the victim deserved worse treatment. Some people became dedicated fans, attending every execution like season ticket holders. Wealthy families often brought chairs and established premium viewing areas. Rich people packed elaborate picnic baskets and transformed executions into outdoor social occasions. Gambling was widespread at executions. People wagered on how long victims would survive, which bones would break first, what final words would be spoken. Medieval people apparently found betting opportunities everywhere, even while watching systematic torture. Social pressure to attend was very real. If you were a respectable citizen, staying home during a major execution could raise questions about your loyalty. But what about the people who actually carried out these horrific executions? Medieval executioners occupied society's strangest position, absolutely essential but completely unwanted. Everyone needed their services, but nobody wanted to associate with them. They had the ultimate job security with zero social perks. The profession typically passed from father to son like any family trade. But this wasn't voluntary career inheritance. Once your family was marked as an executioner family, other employment options basically disappeared. What merchant would hire the torturer's son? Bad for business reputation. Social isolation was complete and devastating. Executioners often lived outside town boundaries. They were banned from taverns, markets, and most public gatherings. Many churches refused them communion. Despite the social ostracism, the pay was surprisingly excellent. Master executioners earned more than skilled craftsmen like carpenters or stonemasons. Towns were willing to pay premium wages for someone who could perform complex torture procedures without public failures. Learning proper wheel technique took years of training. Breaking bones correctly without causing immediate death required detailed anatomical knowledge. Medieval executioners were basically twisted doctors who specialized in controlled destruction rather than healing. They handled numerous other unpleasant jobs beyond executions, amputating hands for theft, removing tongues for blasphemy, disposing of plague victims, cleaning execution equipment. Many executioners struggled with serious alcohol problems. The psychological toll of regularly torturing people to death was enormous. Retirement wasn't really viable. Once you became an executioner, you remained one until death or disability ended your career. The medieval job market wasn't exactly bursting with opportunities for former professional torturers, but all this expertise and horror came at significant financial cost. Medieval towns treated executions like major public works projects requiring careful financial planning. Breaking wheel executions were particularly expensive undertakings that could strain municipal budgets. Custom wheel construction represented a major expense. These devices couldn't be thrown together from random lumber scraps. Nobody wanted to be the mayor whose execution wheel collapsed during the main event. Quality iron for breaking bars commanded premium prices. The bars had to meet exact specifications for weight and balance. Too light, and they wouldn't cause sufficient damage. Too heavy, and they might kill victims too quickly. Multiple skilled craftsmen contributed to wheel construction. Carpenters built wooden components. Blacksmiths forged metal hardware. Rope makers provided binding materials. Each specialist charged professional rates. Master executioners commanded substantial fees for wheel executions because of the complex expertise required. Premium torture services came with premium price tags. Even medieval death had luxury options. Some executioners offered comprehensive service packages. For one negotiated price, they would handle multiple execution methods: hanging, beheading, wheel breaking, whatever authorities required. Cleanup represented another significant expense that towns often overlooked. Someone had to remove bodies, dispose of broken wheels, and clean execution sites. Some entrepreneurial communities discovered they could generate revenue from executions. Charging admission fees, selling premium viewing locations, licensing food vendors, major executions could actually turn profits. Medieval event planning apparently extended to monetizing human suffering, but despite all the investment and expertise, this brutal industry eventually began crumbling. The 18th century brought revolutionary new ideas about justice and human dignity that would ultimately doom the breaking wheel. Enlightenment philosophers began questioning whether torture actually deterred crime. Apparently, some people started thinking there might be better ways to run a justice system than hosting public bone-breaking festivals. Influential thinkers published works arguing that punishment should match crime severity, and that torture was both cruel and ineffective. These ideas spread rapidly among educated Europeans. Legal reforms started slowly, but gained unstoppable momentum. Prussia led by abolishing torture in 1740. Other German states quickly followed. France eliminated most torture punishments during their revolution. The final legal breaking wheel execution occurred in 1841 in Prussia. A man convicted of multiple murders received the wheel sentence, making him the last official victim. After centuries of bone breaking, the wheel era ended not with dramatic fanfare, but with paperwork. Economic considerations played important roles too. Wheel executions were extremely expensive, and communities discovered that simpler execution methods achieved identical deterrent effects. Medieval budget committees apparently weren't impressed by torture's cost-effectiveness. The development of professional police forces and systematic criminal investigation reduced dependence on confessions extracted through torture. When authorities could actually investigate crimes properly, they needed torture much less. Today, the breaking wheel survives primarily as a historical curiosity in museums. Some European coats of arms still feature wheel symbols, though most people have no idea about their connection to systematic torture. Modern wheel symbols are mostly about transportation and industry, much less screaming involved. The wheel's disappearance marked the end of an entire approach to criminal justice based on public spectacle and extreme physical punishment.